Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I am Adrian Atkinson. Today we help you understand the operations of emergency shelters as we ensure our readiness for the hurricane season, plus how to respond to a flash flood watch or warning. Remember, knowledge is power, and knowing these things will help to save lives. There is so much more within the half hour. Stay with us.
The tinting of your windscreen, cut it out. Public passenger vehicles, according to the Transport Authority Act, not supposed to have tints. I'm appealing to motorists out there. We have removed many plates because of fandangles that are on the motor vehicle. Colorful lights, red light, purple light, blue light, and these multicolored lights. Get them off. I've noticed some trends out there where there is different type of license plates on motor vehicles. Only the Jamaican issued driver's license plates are to be on the motor vehicles. Once you transport any passenger in the motor vehicle, ensure that they are buckled, whether they are on the front or they are on the back. The seatbelt gives people a fighting chance to survive the crash. Many people have died who never give themselves a fighting chance.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, July 14. Public sector entities and their workers are now governed by a service excellence policy. The Customer Service Center document is designed to mainstream and entrench service delivery and performance standards for all ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs. The policy was developed based on an independent study on customer satisfaction of government services and is part of the ongoing public sector modernization program. At Tuesday's launch, Prime Minister Andrew Holness expressed the hope that the document will create a culture of excellence within the public sector that meets and exceeds citizens' expectations. He says the policy is also intended to change the behavior of the public sector when providing service to customers.
We must become customer-focused, and this applies to both our internal and external customers. We therefore have to set performance standards, improve capacity, promote excellence, and establish effective systems of management and accountability.
The Prime Minister charged all permanent secretaries, heads of departments, and agencies to not only implement the policy, but also monitor the quality of services delivered across the public sector. Mr. Holness also urged the public sector to show empathy when interfacing with customers.
Not everyone has the level of literacy to articulate effectively their concerns, their problems. And so that requires empathy, which will inevitably lead to patience, which will inevitably mean that you will get to the root cause of the concern, which will mean that you will be able to effectively address the issues. So it starts with a posture of empathy.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is urging public sector workers to increase their productivity. Mr. Holness reasoned that improved customer service by the public sector will allow the state to pay higher wages and provide more resources for workers to do their jobs.
Improved efficiency and service means improved productivity, which means a positive impact on the growth of our economy, which means more jobs, which means our citizens prosper. And when our citizens prosper, we all benefit. In addition, when we improve service delivery, we reduce waste, reduce costs, we receive less complaints, we have happier citizens, we have happier team members, and somehow that just dramatically translates into increased global competitiveness.
And that increased global competitiveness makes Jamaica more attractive for investments, which provide new opportunities for Jamaicans. Government will be providing back-to-school support for public sector workers who earn $600,000 or less per year. Finance and the Public Service Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, made the announcement Tuesday. The funds, he says, are being offered to cover back-to-school expenses, which will become due before the completion of the public sector compensation review.
And in the context of global inflationary pressures, I want you to know that we are working to ensure that we will have in place a program that persons who earn at the lowest levels in the public service can be assisted with back-to-school support in the same way we're assisting non-path students.
Minister Clark says additional information about the intervention will be provided shortly. In the meantime, Dr. Clark said the public sector restructuring exercise has been going well. The first round of consultations with unions, bargaining groups, and professional associations have been completed, and second round consultations are ongoing. Minister Clark says more updates will be provided later. The public sector compensation review is intended to overhaul the structure of salaries and other emoluments in the public service to make it more equitable. This exercise will simplify the current complicated 325 salary scales and eliminate most of the 185 allowances. Jamaica is among a group of countries being supported by the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, in its fight against the monkeypox virus. The assistance in detecting and containing monkeypox comes in the form of increasing laboratory capacity and guidance. PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etienne says training has also been done in 37 countries and territories to conduct real-time PCR testing. Jamaica, Brazil, and Mexico have also received in-person and virtual workshop sessions.
We also help countries develop surveillance and contact tracing protocols, which are critical steps to disrupt the chain of transmission. PAHO is also offering guidance to healthcare professionals on the clinical management and diagnosis of the disease and in infection prevention and control.
Dr. Etienne was speaking during PAHO's digital media briefing yesterday. A total of 1,325 cases of monkeypox have been reported in 14 PAHO member states since May 10, representing 14% of the global case count. The organization reported that no deaths have occurred in the region to date. And finally, the parish of Clarendon is in a state of readiness for disaster-related eventualities during the Atlantic hurricane season. Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie made the announcement at a recent town hall meeting in Rocky Point. While giving the assurance, Minister McKenzie disclosed that the parish was among the top 3 parishes that are at an advanced state of readiness. He added that the Clarendon Municipal Corporation will be carrying out another phase of drain cleaning and will be coordinating efforts to ensure the safety of the homeless population. Minister McKenzie also updated the town hall meeting on Clarendon's 94 shelters.
All 94 shelters are fully equipped with what is needed for the shelters to operate. There is no shortage of resources to equip these shelters. There are personnel that is ready, and you heard from the coordinator that there have been a number of drills and interactions taking place across the parish.
The meeting is the first in a series of disaster preparedness and mitigation sensitization town halls planned for the island's 14 parishes. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Lowering the sodium content in children's diets today can help prevent heart disease later in their life, especially for those who are overweight. Shake the salt habit, shop smart and cook smart. Use less or no salt when cooking. Try using fresh herbs and seasonings to add more flavor. Limit the consumption of salty snacks. Take the time to carefully read the nutrition labels on food products to identify those high in salt and choose the healthier options. Remember, no more than 2 grams of salt per day from all food sources for children under 11 years of age.
Disasters happen, so we must be prepared. Have you heard that before? Now is the time to stock up on knowledge. For example, What do you know about emergency shelters and their relevance during a hurricane? Do you know where the nearest one is in proximity to your home?
It doesn't always have to be a hurricane. A disaster can strike at any time, natural or man-made, and you may not be thinking about a shelter. But shelters are a critical part of the government's disaster plan to ensure the safety of citizens in the event of a natural or man-made catastrophe. Let's rewind a little. Do you know the nearest shelter in your community?
We use schools as shelters, community centers, churches. All of these are utilized for the purpose of assisting persons that would need accommodation in times of emergencies. And so that is the role of the shelter. In terms of the number of shelters that we have, it could be in the region over 900, about 900 shelters that we have across Jamaica.
We always grab our phones when we're in trouble. And this time we are searching for the nearest emergency shelter on the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management ODPEM website. Select the Shelters tab, choose your parish, then download the listing to see all available shelters in or near your community. You can also browse the interactive map and click on the red dots to identify the shelters. ODPEM also updates its website with the new shelter listings once the annual inspections are completed.
The reason for this is because sometimes some schools can be removed from the listing, and so we would need to, of course, have that information properly and well communicated for persons to be able to know what to do when it is time to go to a shelter. Disaster shelters are activated in two ways. They're done nationally and they're done at the parish level, parish or community specific, for parish or community specific impacts. Now, large-scale hurricanes, for example, when we have lead time, so sometimes when we're tracking these storms and we have lead time 2 or 3 days, then the shelter managers are activated, right, alerted through the parish mechanism, and so they are on standby to open the shelters. So informing the public, that is done through the formal mechanism of press releases that are sent to media houses to let, of course, persons know that shelters are activated, and persons should, of course, go to their nearest shelter. The ODPEM also passes information about shelter activation through our various other social media handles, the Facebook and Twitter and all of the others. And of course, where communities are generally impacted all the time, these persons know their shelters, they know their shelter managers, and so, the information is kind of fluid.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Livingston.
Good afternoon, Ms. Livingston. I'm Chevelle.
I'm here to tell you, Chevelle, the things you should take to the shelter and what you should not take. Okay? You can carry stuff like tin sardine, tin mackerel. You can have a little lemonade drinks, oats, and your biscuit, and your lasco, and your wipes, your clothes. Make sure you come with your sanitary napkin.
Do I have to put the clothes in a plastic bag?
Yes, in case of there is rain, you have them in the plastic bags. You come with your medication. And if you have children, you carry the medication. So you plastic them What you should not take to the shelter: no knife, no cigarettes, no pets, and no bad behavior.
Okay, that is it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
The COVID-19 pandemic shifted emergency shelter operations with an added focus on keeping persons safe from transmissible diseases. Shelter managers are trained to observe COVID-19 protocols, and this includes having an isolation area. The safety of every emergency shelter is paramount, and this means that shelter rules must be followed.
This government, since 2016, have made arrangements that once the shelters are occupied, we will provide food supplies for persons within the shelters. So the rules that are laid out are clear. It is written all over the board. You see it. Shelter rules.
Emergency shelters are also being retrofitted to provide better mobility for disabled persons. Shelter managers across all parishes are trained each year and provided with refresher trainings in an ongoing program. According to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, IFRC, disaster preparedness isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do.
Given our realities, some communities are vulnerable, and so the shelters would definitely not be in such a vulnerable location. And so where those cases exist, there is an arrangement at the municipal corporation level where the vulnerable population is actually transported to these shelters.
Do you know what to do if a flash flood watch or warning is given by the authority? Well, here's what you need to know.
Every month of the year, there has been in our history some incidents of flooding that has taken place in some aspect of the country. And that is something that we have to take note of. Apart from monitoring and giving the forecast, we are also responsible for warnings. And so there are some warnings that we want you to take special heed to if you consider yourself to be vulnerable in any situation. When we speak about a flash flood watch, it means that there is a feature, some kind of weather system that is going to produce enough rainfall that makes it possible for you to get flooding. So it means start to watch, because the water levels are going to be increasing and there is the possibility of the flooding. Now, if we start to see that in some area flooding has started to occur, or if we believe that the flooding has been so close to an area that it is going to happen in that area in a short space of time, we will escalate that flash flood watch and refer to it as a flash flood warning. So when we talk about a flash flood warning, it means not only that the flooding is possible, but the flooding either has already started to happen or is going to happen in a very short space of time because it is very close to that area. So it is important to know what the watch means as opposed to what the warning means. Usually with the warning, we will not only issue a warning, but we will also tell you what kind of actions are important or what you should not do. Like, do not go through flooded waterways because it could pose a risk to your life and to your property. Also, if you live in low-lying or flood-prone areas, if it is an area that is regularly experiencing flooding, A flash flood warning for your area would mean that now is the time to move to higher ground because the flooding has already started or is going to happen very shortly. It is also important for us to know where we live, because sometimes in our messages we might not refer to the actual town, but we will tell you what part of the country the flood watch or the flood warning is relevant to. So if we talk about central parishes, we are referring to Clarendon. We're also talking about Manchester. We're also talking about St. Anne. These are central parishes. So you have to be knowledgeable of where you live so that you know whether the message actually applies to you. The messages that we issue for hurricanes and tropical storms are watches and warnings as well, like the flooding. But in this case, for a tropical storm or a hurricane, when we issue a watch, it means the conditions that are associated with the storm or the hurricane are possible within a certain time frame. If you hear tropical storm or hurricane watch, you could get the impact of that system within a day and a half, 36 hours. If we mention that it is a tropical storm or a hurricane warning, it means that you only have 1 day before that thing can affect you. So we are moving to how quickly you need to make sure that you are prepared by naming it a watch or a warning. So the watch is the first level of the alert that there is something that is likely to affect you. But when we move to a warning, it means now is the time to batten down because you most likely are going to experience that storm or hurricane. We might have a tropical wave, which is the least of them, in that it can still cause a lot of rain and it can still cause flooding and devastation, but it will not have very strong winds associated with it. But then there is the tropical depression that is a little stronger, because now you have winds that are moving with it, gusty winds, and it also has a lot of rainfall. Then you have tropical storms, which is a more severe kind of tropical depression because the winds are even stronger. And then if it gets even stronger, it could become a hurricane. So it's important that you have your radio and that your radio is battery controlled, not dependent on electricity, so that you can hear the warning messages that come from the meteorological service. Also bear in mind that if you dial 116, you will be able to hear the latest message coming out of the meteorological service related to any warnings. We cannot stop paying attention. We cannot let down our guard. You have to prepare yourself and stay prepared until we are out of the threat.
Up next, knowing the do's and don'ts of navigating roadways.
We have stepped up our road spot check operations across the country to ensure that only effective motor vehicles are on the roadway and defective vehicles are not allowed to traverse the network willy-nilly. I'd like to use this opportunity to appeal to all motorists. I have noticed some trends out there where there is different type of license plates on motor vehicles. Only the Jamaican issued driver's license plates are to be on the motor vehicles. I'm appealing to motorists out there. I'm appealing to them. We have removed many plates because of fandangles that are on the motor vehicle. Colorful lights, red light, purple light, blue light. I love purple and white, but the purple is not no purple light must on the vehicle. Blue light, yellow light, orange light, and these multicolored lights. Get them off. Your headlight must be white. That's the law. We don't want us to take them off during the road spot check operation because it will mean that you could be issued an E1 certificate, a certificate of defects, and you'll have to take funds out of your pocket to get back your plates. The tinting of your windscreen, cut it out because it affects visibility and it has a potential risk factor for traffic crashes. Public passenger vehicles, according to the Transport Authority Act, not supposed to have tints. Driving on the roadway is a very serious matter, and I would like to appeal to persons whom we have issued driver's license to. Remember that we don't want you to violate, because if you violate, you will get certain prizes that you don't want. So you'll get a prize if you accumulate a certain amount of points. You get a prize, your driver's license suspended for 6 months. If you don't listen, you don't hear, you could open up yourself for another prize. And that prize would be a license could be suspended for a year. If you don't like that prize, you could work harder again and get a bigger prize. And that prize, your license could be suspended for 2 years. We would like to appeal to persons who transport. Once you transport any passenger in a motor vehicle, ensure that they are buckled, whether they are on the front or they are on the back. The seatbelt gives people a fighting chance to survive the crash. Many people have died who never give themselves a fighting chance.
Looking at the data, we recognize certain points of interest that we, the road safety, would be looking at in seeing how we can actively engage our citizens and how we can reduce the number of injuries and fatalities that are occurring on our roads. So one of them is actually speeding. Now, most motorists and bikers who currently represent 35% and 18% of road fatalities, we're appealing to them to reduce and think about themselves and others who are using the roadway. Another road user group that we are actually targeting is pedestrians, and they represent 20% of our fatalities. And we want to appeal to them to be vigilant, to really utilize the road carefully, be alert, don't cross from corners, walk facing the traffic so you can see what we're doing, wear light color clothing at nights and reflective clothing at nights so you can be seen.
Obedience is always better than sacrifice. That's the word from Elohim.
Was chocolate milk invented in Jamaica? Well, history has it that the first use of the term milk chocolate was for a beverage brought to London from Jamaica in 1687. The vehicle was one Sir Hans Sloane, physician to the governor of Jamaica. The story is that he was introduced to chocolate tea by slaves whom he saw drinking it. They told him that it was more delicious with milk and that the chocolate tea was also good for health. Sloane went back to England and produced milk chocolate, which later became Cadbury's. But it was not until the Swiss inventor Daniel Peter successfully combined cocoa and condensed milk in 1875 that the commercial milk chocolate bar was invented. Celebrating Jamaica 60 with pieces of our history.
This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Do join us again tomorrow and we'll bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.